If you're not gaining enough protein, you won't be seeing the results you want. Now, I'm sure at one point in time you've questioned how much protein you should eat, how much is enough, can you overeat it, or is it a free macro in some way? In today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly how much protein you need based on your goals and get you back on track to making progress. I've also included timestamps below to help you navigate to the parts you're most interested in. However, I do suggest watching the full video as protein is the one macro you don't want to make a mistake on. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. I'm Coach Eric, and the goal of my channel is to be your personal coach and help you through your fitness journey and achieve a life-changing transformation. So please consider subscribing and liking this video to help the YouTube algorithm push it out to more people. Now, protein is without a doubt the most essential macronutrient, especially when it comes to building muscle and optimizing fat loss. A lot of people can stall the progress they're making simply by not eating enough protein. The problem occurs for a number of reasons. Protein is needed by every task in the body, so just hitting your minimum intake might not be enough to help assist in the muscle building process. Protein also has a very high thermic effect, and that means that roughly 30% of the calories you eat from protein are burned up simply in the process of digestion and assimilation. This means that you can technically eat more protein-rich foods for less net calories, allowing you to stay full for longer while still being in a calorie deficit. The last reason is that protein is very anabolic, and making sure you are in a 2-to-1 ratio of muscle protein synthesis to muscle protein breakdown will definitely assure you maintain or potentially even build muscle during your fat loss journey. While these are not all the reasons, I hope you can see some of the reasons as to why not getting enough protein in can definitely hinder progress. You might also be wondering why building or maintaining muscle is important if your goal is fat loss. And it's really a great question and one that not many people understand. To put it simply, more muscle equals more fat burned. The reason is that muscle is responsible for your metabolism. Low muscle mass means a low metabolic rate. Your metabolic rate is nothing more than how many calories you burn on a daily basis without factoring in activity or exercise. This is one of the main reasons why low-calorie diets in general do not work. As long as your low-calorie diet is prioritizing protein, you'll be fine. This is without a doubt the number one reason people have a problem with the idea of calories in versus calories out. And they believe it's not that simple. If you're curious about this topic, you can click the video above where I go into this topic a little bit deeper. To quickly summarize this point, here are two low-calorie diets on the screen. One prioritizes protein, the other is your typical American diet, but with portion control added. While both are technically low calories, they may both lead to weight loss. However, where the weight loss comes from will be different from each person. The high protein group will have lost the majority from fat tissue and water, and the low protein group will have lost the majority from muscle and water with a little bit from fat loss. This is another reason why weight loss doesn't necessarily mean a favorable change in body composition. So how much protein do you actually need? The answer is not that simple, and it is highly dependent on multiple factors such as training age, gender, goal, body composition, etc. But to keep things simple, first let's look at what the science says. For resistance trained individuals, aiming for 1.8 to 2.7 kilograms per body weight is the ideal range to be aiming for. That roughly is going to translate to around 0.8 to 1.3 grams per pound of body weight. Now, eating more protein than these targets will not yield more benefits. And in fact, it may be counterintuitive, as that means you will have less calories available for the other macronutrients. So let's quickly break up 3 different types of people, and I'll show you exactly what protein targets I would recommend for each one. For the average gym goer, I would aim for the lower range of just 0.8 grams per pound. Now, the way I'm going to define average gym goer is just someone who trains irregularly. They're not on an actual program, and they're focused on weight loss and general health purposes. The next person would be someone who is within their first year of training, and they're getting more serious about making progress every single session, so maybe they're starting to understand the principles of progressive overload. This person should typically be aiming for 1 gram of protein to be on the safer side. Now, the last type of person would be someone who is more advanced. And what I mean by more advanced is somewhere within the 3 to 5 years plus of training or being on a program where they have consistently been seeing progress. And I would also throw in that at one point in time within this 3 to 5 year window, they have been at a sub 10% body fat. And the reason I throw that in there is because if you're overweight and you are training, playing with higher protein targets doesn't necessarily make sense. So the way that you would manipulate your protein and chase the higher end would be if you've already successfully trained and dieted at around 1 gram. Then to build a little bit more muscle, maybe you might want to try going 1.1, test it out, and then retest, etc. So someone who's a little bit more advanced could potentially play around with the higher end of the range. Now, there are other factors that you should consider. It's not just about training age. We also have to look at the type of training that you're doing or what goal you're in at the time. So for example, just to keep things simple, put this little chart above. Strength training, you should be looking at more low to moderate protein intake. The same thing is true, if not more so, with hypertrophy training. So during this phase, I would at least aim for 1 gram of protein to be on the safe side, and then you can allocate a lot more carbohydrates that way. Now the last phase, fat loss, and it really does depend on the deficit, but this is where I would suggest going the high for the high amount to the highest, maybe even past that 1.3 gram. And that's really going to be based on a couple research papers that just show that the more protein you eat, the more there's a satiating effect. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that more protein is better for fat loss. All it's really saying is that if you are prioritizing eating high protein, you're less likely to actually overeat it because protein is so satiating. Now you might be asking, what about the health risks? Well, will it damage my kidneys? Short answer is no. But if you would like a more detailed explanation on the health implications protein may have on the body, there's a video that you can watch up here where I go into it a little bit more. As long as you are a relatively healthy individual with no pre-existing conditions, having a higher protein intake is not going to affect you in any negative way. But once again, I highly suggest checking the video out that I did prior, just because I do go into these things in a little bit more detail. And also, if you are curious about the other macronutrients, for example, well, you have your protein figured out now, well, what do I do with my carbs and my fat intake? I also have another video here, which is an introduction to macronutrients, and that video will help you just get a broader understanding of the whole topic and in terms of what you need to do for each. Now, if I was able to teach you something new today, please hit the like button and consider sharing this video with your friends and family members who are having a hard time hitting their protein intake. And if you would like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing and also make sure to hit that bell icon so that you stay notified for when these videos drop. I'm Coach Eric, stay strong, and I'll see you next time.